Today we're looking at a rare early Sony radio. How rare? Well, this may be the only one left. And we've looked at quite a few early Sony things on this channel. Their first transistor radio, which was this, or this. If you're curious which, you can go watch that video. It was the first transistor radio made in Japan. And we looked at this early Sony, the TR-33, and this one, their TR-6. All these were made in quite small quantities, and so they are very rare. But rarer still is the one we're looking at today. It's the Sony TR-2K two-transistor radio from 1955. Sony's second commercially released transistor radio. This was the very first transistor radio made in Japan that fit in a shirt pocket. It was able to be so small because, well, they left out the speaker. That's right, these grid marks on the front that give a loose impression of a speaker grille are just for looks. This radio plays through an earphone only. But if you had one of these in your pocket in 1955, you were high-tech. This radio, available only in Japan, was sold as a kit. That's right, a Sony product that you put together yourself. This particular example is said to have belonged to an executive at Matsushita, also known as Panasonic, who liked to keep tabs on what the competition was doing. These ancient batteries in here are Lamina brand from the Toyo Dry Battery Company. There's no label inside the radio, and very little documentation of anything. You can see printed on the board little illustrations of the parts, as you might expect of a kit. The two transistors are branded Sony. A couple of other parts are from NEC. The volume control is marked TBM, so that's from Tsubame Radio Company, if I'm saying that right. They'd been making such parts since 1929, long before Sony came along in 1946, and TBM is still at it, making a point of pride that they still make products in Japan, even while most of their Japanese competitors have moved their plants overseas. Sound familiar? I don't see what this hole is for on the side, near the volume control. This little plastic ball here on the side is, I believe, a kind of fancy plug for an external antenna wire. That wire would be coming out of the other end of this ball and be several feet or yards long to aid the little radio's reception. You could even run such a wire up a tree if you wanted to. I don't see who's going to stop you. This early Sony advertising piece shows their TR-55 to the left and right. Top center is their TR-33. I mentioned these earlier as having their own videos on this channel. And center bottom is the TR-2K, here referred to as the TR-22L for some reason. It's shown assembled and in kit form, with the packaging all in Japanese. We see a larger, clearer image of the kit on this Sony flyer. Sony's brand new logo is on the front edge of the box, as you can see at the extreme bottom left. In the box are cabinet, dial, earphone, small parts, and, off to the right, the circuit board. I believe the little boxes along the top contain the transistors, getting the special treatment of being in their own boxes. And Sony's logo appears on the top of the box. The radio itself does not have the Sony logo, or say Sony on it anywhere on the outside. All that's visible are the raised letters that say transistorized radio on the front and made in Japan on the back. I'm just guessing, but my thinking is that Sony did not want to put its name on something that you soldered together. Though Sony had been around since 1946, they were not then named Sony. This was their corporate name. The Sony name was first used in 1955, and this radio is the second Sony-named product, even though the name is present only on the box. The earphone is branded Crown. I don't know what to make of that. We see that style of crystal earphone all over the place in the later 1950s and 60s, especially used with crystal radios. As this book shows, Crown was a prolific maker of earphone-only transistor radios, with low transistor counts, like 1 or 2, and also crystal radios, in addition to their larger full-featured models. At the time this Crown earphone was made, the company was still officially Asahi Radio. This style of crystal earphone is still made today, as far as I know, probably in China. Why isn't this a Sony earphone? Well, if I could see another example of this radio, it could certainly help confirm whether Sony did indeed source this earphone from Crown, or made one of their own, or did something else. But this is the only known example of this radio in existence. I don't really have any objection to the idea that Sony used a Crown earphone on this radio. I think it is well within the realm of possibility. I further wouldn't be surprised if Crown, or as I say, Asahi Radio, was the original designer of this crystal earphone and was in those days the go-to source for them. I mean, somebody had to do it. I know of no older examples of this style earphone than those shown with the little crowns in this book. Now, I've never had this radio apart, but I think we need to get a look at the other side of the circuit board, don't you? Maybe it will say Sony on there somewhere, or give the model number, or maybe there's a $1,000 bill folded up in there. I did test this radio and got nothing but crackling noises out of it. Alas, once inside, I see no treasure map or deed to a Hawaiian island. There's nothing at all inscribed on the inside of the cabinet. The circuit board is pretty simple and pretty primitive, but does provide one more little piece of the puzzle. It says on it TR-22L. That's that number mentioned in one of the advertising pieces I showed earlier. So that's a chassis number. Okay. Well, I would have rather had the $1,000 bill. In this flyer, the radio's model is clearly TR-2K. Keep your eyes on the cartoon guy on the right as the flyer opens up. Here he is at his desk assembling his radio. As we fold down the front of the flyer to reveal the inside, our cartoon guy is now proudly walking down the street, listening to the Sony radio he built himself. And what does all this writing say? I don't know. It's all Greek to me. Over here is a view of the radio showing that antenna wire coming out of the side. Then down at the bottom there's a view inside the assembled radio. There's one more side to this flyer we haven't seen. Folded up, this is the back of it, showing the TR-33 and TR-55. That blank panel on the lower right would be a place for a Sony dealer to stamp their name and address with a rubber stamp. Possibly the rarest item in my collection, the Sony TR-2K from 1955.